Mr. Padron.
Rich Benavides, how are you today, sir?
I can't complain. Just sitting here with my participation trophies.
I see that, man. They keep getting more and more. It looks like you're participating very, very well. I see a lot of 9th place, and is that a 12th place trophy back? Yeah, it looks like a 12th place. But hey, Rich, man, who cares? You were a good kid. Hey, man, we got a good show today, man. We got some school administrators that played high school baseball, coach. Some of them coached, and definitely want them to chime in on how baseball and sports kind of directed them to this direction of being educators and now being school leaders. So I think it's going to be an interesting show. We got a good group. We got Brian Hamilton, Javier Perez, Carlos Rios, Guillermo Munoz, and Randy Milliken should be joining us on this show today. So, man, let's bring them in and let's get going.
Yeah, I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for them to talk about something other than their plans for school and all that stuff. Just talk
Absolutely.
baseball. Let me get them in here. Hang tight. There we are.
Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Great. Well,
good. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys. To ask you guys to come on here and talk a little about baseball, and you guys, jumped on it right away. I think this is going to be refreshing instead of talking about reopening schools. Yeah. So it gives us something else to be able to converse about. And each of you here, I know, played high school baseball. Some of you guys coached high school and college. And I even know that there's two of you guys that were multiple sports athletes. So I'm going to start with Mr. Rios. I know that you played football, basketball, and baseball in high school. And definitely, what impact did sports in particular have on you in your life?
Ernie, for me, it was a way to, stay in school and out of the streets. And like you mentioned, my road was a little different than most. I think a lot of the guys here played baseball, little league, all the way through. I actually had the opportunity to play football, basketball, baseball as a kid growing up. Then, in school, starting with middle school and the high school. And you know what? It just built character. It it helped me become a man quicker. Responsibility, leadership, working with others. I mean, it's so many different skills that we learn along the way, playing sports, overcoming. I remember playing against a Great La Progresiva team that we were underdogs, but, everybody was nervous and scared, but, we still had to show up and play. We were fearful of that coach over there, Ernie Padron, a young 27-year-old, 24-year-old. Ernie, you were young. But,
23, 24, but who remembers? Who remembers that?
There you go, 23 years old. But I tell you, even, when odds are against you, you guys, I remember you guys were loaded. We were a pretty good team, but overcoming, knowing that obstacles may be ahead of you, but, no matter what, you go overcome. And listen, it's just great memories. So many things that we use today. So many things learned on the field, on the court, the diamond that we still use today. And I think I'm very lucky to do the job I do, and can relate to a lot of what our kids go through.
Awesome. And then we also have Javier Perez, who happened to be on that La Prague team that kind of beat you guys a couple of times. And not only that, Javi, you played football and got to play against Mr. Rios as the quarterback. I think you sacked him a couple of times.
I probably did. Who remembers that far back? But listen.
No, look, actually, La Progresiva wasn't very good in football, so I'm not sure anybody sacked me.
Ouch. Okay. But Javi, how did sports impact you, man, and the decisions that kind of guided you through what you're doing right now, or kind of spearheaded this direction?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And Ernie, you've known me since a very young age, and we have a tremendous relationship. And what my life has been about, and especially thanks to baseball, how successful I've been. Pretty much baseball has given me a foundation to be a good father, a good husband, a good neighbor, a good leader in my community. has taught me pretty much everything that I know. Most importantly has been dealing with failure, but I think even more importantly on the job that we do professionally is dealing with success. Because a lot of times, it's, if you don't know how to deal with success, you're not going to be able to be successful. Even though good things are happening for you, if you don't know how to deal with them, you're definitely not going to be successful. And I think baseball, out of all sports, teaches you how to deal with those things. And if you put that together in your everyday life, in your work, as a parent, as a husband, I think you're going to be successful, and you're going to do some great things.
Guillermo Munoz, we have him on here too, who was a great baseball player at Miami High, and also I think you got to play at downtown or Dade South, Guillermo. Downtown when it was at Wilson, when there was 3 Miami-Dade college programs back in the day, which that was the glory days of college baseball down here. Guillermo, what did you start teaching, and how did you get into the administration field of education?
That's an interesting question. I actually never thought about going into teaching, but I fell in love with the fact that my life changed as a result of the impact that Steve Hertz had on me as a coach at Miami-Dade downtown at the Wilson campus, that I wanted to give back and do the same for other kids. And so when my time came to make a decision on a career, the advisor at the college asked, what major are you going to declare? You have to declare a major. And I said, well, I want to be a high school baseball coach. I want to give back, what I received. And the person said, well, you're going to teach then. I said, no, I don't want to teach. I just want to coach. And the person said, in order for you to coach high school baseball, you have to become a teacher. And I said, well, okay, well, then I'll teach. Put me down for teaching. And that's how I made a career choice into going into teaching. And then coaching at Hialeah High, and going to the sectionals, and then coaching at Coral Park Senior, and going to the state finals as a coach, and the ability to be able to get back to kids and be able to just give back a little bit of the things that you learned and having an impact on their lives, such as Steve Hertz had on my life, to me is very fulfilling. So while doing that, I decided, that I wanted to give back on a larger scale. And I felt that as a teacher, I only had an impact on maybe 150, 180 kids. But as an administrator, I would have an impact on, 1,000, 2,000 kids. So I decided to pursue my master's in leadership so I could become an administrator. And again, with the intent on having a positive impact on kids.
That's an awesome story. And also on here, we have Brian Hamilton, who doesn't have the commonality that you 3 guys that just spoke, that are down here from Miami-Dade, that you guys grew up here, you played baseball here, and you went to school here. But Brian, I think, grew up in northeast of the United States. Is that correct?
That is correct. Rochester, New York.
Nice. Oh, Rochester, New York. So give us a little breakdown of where you played and how you fell in love with the game and fell in love with this endeavor that we're all doing as educators.
All right. Well, obviously, growing up in Rochester, New York, about 60 miles east of Buffalo, we didn't have the luxury of playing baseball year-round. So I was a multi-sport athlete throughout my whole entire career. I played basketball, soccer, and baseball all the way through high school. And I was fortunate enough to have great coaches along the way to provide leadership and guidance to me in all of the sports, but in particular baseball. And that seemed to be my forte throughout all of those sports. So I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Charleston and played baseball there. I lettered for the 4 years I was there. And a very quick story, when I was in 7th grade, I decided to go to the public library to research schools in Florida. I had never been to Florida because baseball was such a passion in my life. I felt that was the hub for me. So I went to the library, researched colleges to become a teacher in 7th grade. And my goal was to teach baseball at Miami Beach High School because I thought that was a glamorous thing. Miami Beach, coming from the snow belt, that would be a glamorous thing. So fast forward, went to play baseball at the University of Charleston, and I went to West Virginia University to get my master's degree as a teacher. And 2 months before I got my degree, I flew to Orlando for a job fair and signed a contract with Dade County. And in 1986, I got hired on Miami Beach to teach physical education and science In 1983, I was a JV baseball coach at Miami Beach Senior High School. So as a seventh grader, I had a dream.
Wow.
In baseball, sports, but in particular baseball was my vehicle. And it took me all the way to fulfill that dream to coach at Miami Beach. But just like Guillermo said, there was people in my ear talking to me about administration, making a bigger difference and having an influence in many people's lives. So this is my 35th year in the school system, my 18th year as principal, and couldn't be happier with what I'm doing. But I have not just the people along the school system to thank, but in particular the baseball, and because it had such an impact on my guidance into where I am today.
So since 7th grade, you were like LeBron. You were going to take your talents to South Beach, and you knew right away.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that contract though. But that LeBron contract.
I think between all of us combined, we'll never get there.
not even on a week's salary.
Yeah. I do want to add one more thing. It's through my professional experience that I've met these great guys that you have on the show today. I didn't have to grow up in high school and play with or against them. I'm sure they were great, but they're great administrators, and it's a pleasure to work with them each and every day.
Yeah, it's a good group. I mean, right away when I spoke to Javier and he asked who should we bring on, and you honestly you were the first one, because I knew these other guys, and he mentioned you right away. He goes, oh, he'll be great. So that's why we invited. So you could thank Javier. The other two guys, not so much. But so you said you started teaching PE and science. I know that Javi taught PE, correct, Jav?
I did. I taught PE, sure, when I started in the school system. And actually, elementary school, I started my first year.
Yeah, and then go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was actually, my first year teaching, I was also got my first coaching job, which I was your assistant for a year.
That's right.
How was that? You got to tell us about that.
About me or about him?
About working underneath, Ernie.
Listen, bottom line is we went to state that year in 1996. So that's it. That's all you need to know.
That's it.
But I was gonna ask. So I know, Guillermo, what did you teach?
I taught math.
Math.
I taught for 5 years. I taught 1 year at a middle school, and then the rest of my years were at a high school, Hialeah High and Coral Park Senior. I
left Carlos for last because I knew Carlos taught elementary. What are you thinking?
So listen, I wanted to be a PE coach, but I was giving the advice that many of these guys were giving, saying, listen, every school has one PE coach, but they have 50 different teacher jobs. So middle school, high school, coming out of Florida Christian, I had never been in a public high school or a public middle school. So I felt I could handle elementary. And yeah, one of the things many people don't know, I started as a second grade teacher.
I know,
so
I was going to say that.
7-year-olds for 2 years, 7-year-olds. Wow. And quickly moved up to 5th grade and then ended up teaching middle school. But it was a great experience.
Wow. So first experience as an administrator. I want to start with Mr. Hamilton. Where was your first experience as an AP, and where was it?
You got to unmute yourself. You're good.
Sorry about that. My first experience as an assistant principal was at Allapattah Middle School in Liberty City. I was there an assistant principal approximately 5 years, and I got promoted to principal within that school. So I was at Allapattah for 10.5 years. That was my first experience.
Wow. How about you, Guillermo?
I couldn't be more grateful of my first experience as an administrator. I was an assistant principal at Northwestern Senior High School. I spent 6 great years there, really learned a great deal, about operations of a school, and just really more than anything, learned a great deal about building relationships with the people you work with. And then later on, I became the first Hispanic principal of Miami Northwestern, probably the only one, I think, since that there's. But I take great pride in the fact that, spending 6 years at Northwestern Senior High School as an AP, and then turning into a co-principal there, I take great pride in that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Mr. Rios? I keep calling you Mr.
Well, like
Rios.
Guillermo, my experience, I had a short, about 3 months in Doral at John I. Smith. I'm not even sure John I. Smith is still called John I. Smith, but I think they're at K8 now. Was there for about 3 months and then ended up going to Central feeder pattern and was there 5 years at Central Senior High School. And like Guillermo mentioned, a wonderful experience. The highlight of my career to this day were those 5 years there. So much so, it was a failing school. You know, it was a school that had gotten 5 straight Fs. In came Doug Rodriguez, which many of these guys know very well. I know Javi worked with Doug and kind of changed the world over there and got the president of the United States to come out to the school and address us, actually address the nation from Miami Central because of the work that had been done there. So definitely the highlight of my career, something I look back with a lot of, love and enjoyment and great impact on my life.
And then both of you collecting, high school football rings for championships at both those places, obviously. So
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's a good career path. How about you, Jav? Where'd you start off?
My first assistant principal job was at Miami Edison Senior High School. And it was a tremendous experience. I can tell you that to this day, I still have great friends that I worked with while I was there. And we've stayed in touch. That was probably 12, 14 years ago. And I learned a tremendous amount of curriculum while I was there because of the situations that we're in. I want to say back then we were a zone school, so we went to school an extra hour. And it was extremely tough as far as getting the kids over the hump and the things that they were dealing in their neighborhoods and in their personal lives and getting them committed to the schoolwork. But it was a great group effort, and I think we did a great job while we were there.
Okay, so then you guys get promoted, you guys do good jobs as APs, and then you guys are now, leading schools and stuff. What was the hardest transition, or what did you take from playing baseball that helped you with that transition to be the guy running a school? Anybody can answer that one, whoever wants to jump in.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll start. Just I'm extremely passionate about that because I feel really baseball has helped me tremendously in my career as far as working as a team, work ethics, dealing with pressure, working with new and unfamiliar people, which you do on a baseball field, every season, sometimes every game. And like I said earlier, dealing with failure and dealing with success is a tremendous amount of things that you learn on the baseball field that you transition once you're on the workforce, especially leading a school.
I think,
and I'll jump in. Or Guillermo, you want to go, Guillermo?
Yeah, I'll go real quick if you don't mind. For me, Ernie, my path in baseball was not always, peaches and roses. In high school, in fact, my senior year, I hit 286 and struck out 24 times, average of once a game. And everybody who knows baseball knows 286 in high school is not very good. But then when I got to Miami-Dade, and again, giving credit back to Steve Hertz, he worked on my mental aspect of the game. And he worked on the mental toughness part, and visualization. And to this day, I stay with those lessons. There isn't anything in any school that I have been that I don't feel like I cannot accomplish. There isn't anything in any school, any tough situation that I don't feel I can handle. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you don't have success early on and you work and you work and you work and you work, that the grind is what's going to get you over the top. And so you appreciate the grind, you come to love the grind. And so always having to grind, to overcome obstacles is something that I learned from baseball and I've adapted to my career in administration.
Yeah, and Ernie, I was going to jump in. I agree with Guillermo and Javi. No question. I think what Guillermo mentioned as far as a coach is the impact people made on your life and you wanting to give back. So I know Guillermo's talking about Steve Hertz. I talk about Octavio de la Grana a lot, who's now a coach with the Miami Heat, but a guy who you would run through a wall for, and the type of leader that you'll do anything that he asks you to do. And I think those people make such an impact in your life that you want to be that leader. And I think, running a high school especially, it's a team effort. There's nothing that's done individually. These guys can tell you our APs are at the same level. They're working the same hours we are. A lot of the responsibility falls on them. Getting people motivated, getting people to believe in your passion, getting people to believe in your vision in your mission as far as what you want to do. And I think like in sports and baseball, we have certain goals every year, and we set goals in our schools. We set goals, whether it be a letter grade or overall improvement in specific subject areas. And you're a coach, you're a cheerleader, you're a team player. You're on there on the field with them. And Guillermo's right. I think baseball is one of those sports that hitting 300 is considered very successful, but yet that means 3 out of 10 times you're successful, 7 out of 10 you're not. And in education, we deal with a lot of stuff like this. We have thousands of kids, and we want every kid to be successful. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. So then we need to strategize. We need to figure it out and try to see how can we impact this child? How can we get a learning gain here, a learning gain there, or a point here, a point there? And I think through what we went through playing sports, playing baseball, I think that's helped us. It's helped me become, I guess, the administrator I am today.
And I to piggyback what you guys said, and the grind and everything has to be purpose driven too. And I think that helps coaches, teachers, administrators, people in life, that you have to drive with a purpose. And now with all the data that we have to and everything that you have to adjust to the data and learning data, and that data has to dictate what you're doing in the classroom in your schools, and all that stuff is purpose driven. Because if you just make a change just to make a change without a purpose, and there is no purpose per se, so I'm gonna see what's that. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add a couple points to the points that have already been made, and I agree with my with Avi, Guillermo, Carlos on the comments they made. But there's 3 also important points that helped me as a principal. As a baseball player, we were always taught before the pitch is thrown, anticipate what is going to happen before the pitch is thrown. Where are we going to go if it's hit to my left or to my right? What am I going to do if it's behind me? And anticipate. That skill set alone of anticipating as an administrator translated right into my workplace to be able to anticipate things before they happen. So we can prevent a lot of things that happen in our school, just that skill set. And to be able to persevere, as Carlos mentioned, 7 out of 10 times failing, to be able to persevere. He also mentioned coaching, because I see a skill set in former players of coaching, as opposed to just being a leader. But we're coaches too. And we coach our teachers, we coach assistant principals, we coach our secretaries, we coach our custodians, our food service, and everybody involved in the organization as a whole. So I see us as coaches as well. And I think that is the skill set that separates us from a lot of other people in this field. So that's what is the main difference for me. But I echo the thoughts of my colleagues as well.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, and coaching is equivalent to being a teacher. And you have to teach the people that work with you, work for you, and definitely guide them, and definitely. Rich, I'm going to throw it over for you, man. I know you're dying to ask some questions.
Oh, I had a question, general, for everyone. With the news that came out today, I don't know if you guys saw, the Ivy League canceled all their fall sports. All the Ivy League schools canceled, and I read that. And they're pending whether they start back up in January. And what I wanted to ask you guys is, I know you're all swamped with this back to school. How is it going to look? In school, virtual, brick and mortar, combination, blended. But I wanted to ask you guys, because I haven't heard a lot on my end. In the people that I've been talking to, how important do you guys feel that sports are, that we're able to get sports off the ground for these kids? Because the communities that we service are not all Ivy League style communities, and I think it's really important to do what we can to have that outlet for these kids. And I wanted to hear your guys' point of view on that subject.
I think I mean, I can tell you that emphatically, I feel that safety is first. Safety is paramount. And so if, in fact, the IVs feel that they cannot safely implement their sports programs, and I think they're making the right decision.
Right.
I know that, we will all have an opportunity to share and chime in. But again, I think first and foremost for me is safety. I have 2 children of my own, and one of them is, active in school, not particularly sports, but I would not want her participating in an activity or being part of an activity that would expose her or, to some risk of, contracting a virus that she doesn't have to. I mean, many people talk about the fact that this doesn't manifest itself in kids in some ways, but we don't know the long-term ramifications of this virus. There aren't enough studies to be able to tell what impact it will have long-term on your body, whether you're a kid, middle age, or older person. So again, I go with the fact that safety to me is first and paramount. And if they made a decision, then I respect their decision.
I agree with Guillermo. All these whether they're high school or elementary school, they have families, and the families should be their most important thing in their life. So I agree the safety factor should come in first. I think on their own, they should at least continue to hone their skill on their own. If they can, find a family member to throw with, hit the ball off the tee into a mat or something to keep their skills going, because they certainly don't want the skill to diminish in any way. But I agree with Guillermo.
We're dealing with something that obviously none of us have ever dealt with before. We're learning as we go. And I think we need to respect the fact that, a lot of people are cautious, and we need to be cautious. We have to make sure that we stay safe. And like Brian said, my son plays Little League Baseball. I go out with him 3 to 4 times a week, and we play outside. We try to do things, but we do it. Obviously, it's not on a team basis, but we're doing it individually. Is it the same? No, but at least he's staying active. He's still doing the things that he loves. And as we continue to learn, and whether we find the vaccine quickly or not, we'll have more answers in the weeks and months to come.
I'm sorry, Carlos. I also saw today Stanford came up of the 36 sports. They canceled 11 of them. Like, they're no longer going to be participating in those sports. Do you guys foresee anything like that happening at the high school level?
I think it's too early to tell. I think that right now, I think our attention as a school district is on, reopening and getting ready for that. And I think that I'm sure there are conversations that, being held that we may not have information about just yet, but I'm pretty sure that they are planning. There's a plan for it. But obviously, until there is some more certainty about our opening, the plan, what the plan will be. And let's just keep in mind, guys, and something to reiterate, the plan that we are going to be implementing is if the county, Metro-Dade, Miami-Dade County, moves to a phase 2 in reopening. Currently, Miami-Dade County, is in a phase 1 reopening.
Correct.
So at this point, this is just plans.
And I was just going to say, Ernie, that's something we talked with our coaches, and our coaches are on the same page with the guys here. Safety before anything else. So obviously there's a love and a passion to coach. There's a love and a passion to play football and volleyball, and, but they understand. They understand where we stand now. And like Guillermo just mentioned, we cannot even proceed. It's not even a conversation that can be had now just based on where we stand today.
Yeah, because as teachers, as educators, as human beings, we do not want to put any of our players in a situation that something might arise, So definitely I am, in agreement with that. The thing that I see is that, there's a lot of kids that come to school to play sports because that's their only outlet. And obviously we can't control what's going to happen. But definitely I know that we got the right people in power that are going to make the right decisions, that are going to, like you guys said.
But Ernie, you know what?
Focus on I'm sorry, Guillermo, focus on the safety. And I agree. And I know that the right decision is going to be made with that focus. And I'm good with that.
But Ernie, I think that this is maybe also an opportunity for us that know and have identified students who come to school simply for sports as an outlet, for us to let them know that sports is not there forever. We were very fortunate that we used sports to our benefit. But in many, many cases, I have seen so many kids be used by sports, and then have nothing to show for it at the end. So it's an opportunity for us to now refocus these students and say, hey, as you can see, sports may not be forever, and it's not always, it sometimes is beyond your control. But what they can control is their academics. They can control going to school for academics and getting an education and having a very successful, life, and being a provider for their families, through academics. So again, I'm a firm believer in that, and we shouldn't be just focusing on the fact that this is their only outlet. No, we should be talking to those kids and making them aware that they need to also focus on the academics, because that's going to carry them further than the sports will.
That's a great point, and Javi could attest to this because having played for me. But I always tell him, hey guys, baseball comes to an end. For some of us after high school, for some of us after a college career, for some of us like Derek Jeter, 20-year career, but it comes to an end. And the quicker we understand that and we realize what's going to help us be productive citizens, and education is the one outlet to do that, then they embrace that, and then they're going to be successful. But that's just, and you're right. I think the focus should be turned around a little bit, but yeah, we can't control their focus, but definitely we could control informing them about that. Rich, another question?
Oh, I just would like to add on to what Guillermo said. I think he's spot on with the assessment that it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to teach and to mentor, because if some of these sports do end up getting canceled, I mean, there's going to be a lot of heartbroken kids, and our role as coaches and teachers and administrators is going to have to even shift more on a mentorship level, and finding maybe other outlets for kids to get involved in that are safer, maybe like a journalism class or some kind of leadership program or government programs, things like that. Like, I think these kids are still going to have that void where they're going to need something, whether it's we do it virtually or not, because, there's going to be a lot of heartbreak if kids are not going to be able to take the field. And I think that it's an opportunity for us, that coach. A lot of my colleagues are sitting around and kind of just sitting and waiting. But, myself, I'm trying to prepare for the worst, which would be, hey, we're not playing, but, we still got to do something. We still got to get these kids together. We still got to try to guide them in something extracurricular, because that, like everyone reiterated earlier, is what keeps you going forward. It makes you work harder in school because you got that other thing that it's your dream, it's your passion that you really want to go after, but that academics is the way to get there. So I think it's a conversation that we have to have as coaches and teachers and administrators, that a lot of these kids are going to be heartbroken. And I mean, I was heartbroken when our season ended, so I can't even imagine how a 2020 senior felt.
But again, to what Guillermo says, we could only control what we can control.
Yeah.
There's things with it, and it's a thing in baseball. You can't control the umpire. You can't control the field, the field conditions. You can't control the other team, but you can control your effort, control yourself and your mindset and all that stuff. So yeah, I agree to that.
And at the same time, us as leaders, as coaches, as administrators, it's been a great opportunity also, when you look at the positive, to reinvent ourselves, right, and do things like we're doing here right now. We're doing video conferencing. We're putting shows together. I've seen a lot of sports teams doing the same things. And now, is it easy? Absolutely not. Is it hard to motivate at times, especially when you're dealing, like you said, 17, 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds? Absolutely. But I think, a lot of us are starting to reinvent ourselves and starting to do different things. And maybe a lot of the kids I've seen are doing those things that are new to them, but they're finding a passion in something else. And that could be an avenue also for them to find something else that they're interested in.
Great point. But enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to also add that, I try to put myself in their position, having gone through the process of sports my whole life and what it would feel like. But I agree with having the academics behind you, and also teaching kids, high school kids, whether, like you said, their sports career will come to an end at some point. There are a lot of careers within sports that don't involve being on the field. Right. You can be that great math person and the statistician for a Major League Baseball team, or some other job within corporate America, if you will, within the sports field. So there are a lot of careers that can continue to stay alive within the sports realm. I think that's an important point, and I'm glad we're all talking about academics here too, because like you said, it can end with a throw, a slide, even during the game. It could end.
It could end after a Hall of Fame career. It's going to come to an end. It will come to an end one way or another. But enough of the serious talk. You guys turned this into a serious show. But that was good, guys.
Well, you told us we couldn't curse. You told us we couldn't do this. You told us we couldn't do that.
So. Tino almost got us banned from the station, so we had to no cursing. This question is for everybody. Go ahead.
Ernie, I want to thank you for the invitation first and foremost. And you're saying we're taking it a little too serious. So I think I want to say, and I want to add, that I think you have a great face for radio.
You are not the first or last person to tell me that. Listen, the question I was gonna say, and this is gonna be for Guillermo and for everybody, but Carlos no, because he never coached. He didn't get to coach. But
actually, I did coach, Ernie. Ernie, I did coach.
You?
I coached at Florida Christian as soon as I got out, so I did coach a little bit.
Kickball.
No, coach.
Kickball.
Well,
he left. He left.
Look, he left.
Oh,
no, I'm here.
So greatest moment in your personal greatest moment as a coach or a player during this time, and I'll let you guys go ahead and get started. Anybody chime in?
Well, I'm going to jump in real quick because mine, it's not going to be even as a player, as a coach, because I did coach only 2 years at a JV level. But my greatest moment, or the thing I cherish and remember the most, and actually cried on the field, I got real emotional. Miami Central winning their first state football championship, a school that had been kicked around for so many years academically. I got kicked around the football field by Northwestern for many years. And being able to overcome and win that first state championship in 2010, which then led to 6 straight state championship final appearance. I think that first one was, incredible. Against all odds, it was a group of guys who believed in each other and were able to overcome. So that was my moment, something that I'll treasure, my first championship ring, state championship ring, and something to this day that I treasure, remember, and will take with me all the days of my life.
I think for me, something that I remember very fondly was the day that I found out that I made the team at Miami-Dade College, and the sense of pride that I felt after all the hard work that I put in to try to put myself in that position. And after doing everything that, again, Steve asked me to do, and following it and doing it, and then realizing that, hard work and persistence does pay off. I remember riding a bike from my house to Curtis Park to let my high school coaches know that I had made the team. That to me was a very, very prideful moment.
All right. I guess for me, my freshman year of college, I was able to be a starter, which I was very proud of. And at the end of my freshman year, we were in a 3-game playoff series in the regional playoffs to go to, another regional and then nationals. It was a best of 3 series. We lost the first game. Second game, we were down by 8 runs with 3 innings to go. We came back and won up in the last inning. And the deciding third game, we were down by 7 runs with 2 innings to go, and we came back and won. Wow. And having that pile on the pitcher's mound after the 3rd out and jumping on each other like T-ball kids was a very impressionable time, because we all remember our successes and our failures, but that one sticks out because perseverance again. Baseball doesn't have a clock. We came back. We didn't have to look at the clock, and we had to wait till the last out was made, and we made it after a 3-game series.
You're saying that
against?
Pardon me?
Who was that against? What school?
It was against West Virginia State.
Wow.
And I'm going to add one more point, and my colleagues would possibly know this, but do you know Sidney, who works for a district, Sidney Poitier?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
He was a player on the opposite team.
Oh,
wow.
The player on the opposite team, yes.
That's awesome.
Brian, you were saying that stories, man, and I was getting goosebumps. That's how exciting that was. Those pileups are definitely are unexplainable. It's just a tremendous feeling.
Ernie, how many deals did you have, Ernie?
Oh my goodness! To go to state or actually win a state championship, because those are a little bit.
I know how many state championships you won, and I know how many times you went too. Let's not talk about that, but we piling up in those regional finals 8 times. Got to experience that, and the first time in 2004 we went to state from Florida Christian 2001, 2006, 6 years in a row. We were in the state finals. And in 2001, we were empty-handed. 2002, we were runner-ups. 2003, and then 2004 with a team that, my gosh, just probably we lost 10 ball games. And it was probably our least talented team, but they just were determined and overcome.
everything. They beat a Westminster Academy team 3-1 with Eli Villanueva on the bump, who played in the big leagues, and they just, our pitchers got out of 3 bases loaded jams. Anyways, we got out. We won the regional finals, and then won the game. And I cried. I was in the dugout, sitting down, crying. People were, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I can't believe this." It's, and definitely, I'm getting goosebumps right now. But enough about me. And then a couple times with USA Baseball was exciting too, with doing that. So, Javi, how about you?
Well, I can tell you, as a player, 1991, I had the experience to go to state. That was your first state trip, Ernie, as a coach.
Yes, sir.
And, as an 18-year-old, you don't realize it till years later what you did experience. And it was a tremendous amount of emotions later on, because you feel that maybe, you could have done things differently. You could have handled things differently, but as a young person, but, it is what it is. The experience was unforgettable. It's something that I talk to my kids about, my friends. And as a coach, I can tell you, I coached at the high school level. I coached at the college level. I coached at the highest college level, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. But I can tell you the highlight of my coaching career was my first year as a head high school baseball coach, watching my kids graduate in June.
Wow.
Watching them walk across the stage, getting their diploma, and giving me a hug afterwards. To me, that, I put a stamp on it, and I knew that what I was doing was the right thing.
That's emotional. And Javi, you remember in 1991, we're playing in the regional finals, and we're playing Westminster Academy. Their right field's like 230, and if you hit it in the sidewalk, it's a double. If you hit it to the building,
over
it's
the
a home
street,
run, something like that. But the guy we faced, that everybody was saying, "Man, this guy's gonna die." He's been dominant. You remember who he was? He went out to play football at FSU.
He was a quarterback at Florida State, man.
Yeah, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but they were talking about how
Danny Cannell.
Danny Cannell.
Danny
Cannell was the guy, and we lit him up. We did. Hey, guys, he was good. But the final score, you guys were ready? 18-14. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
18-14. But that team in 91, just a bunch of guys, like Javi said, just grinders, man. They didn't know. Javi pitched in the district final. We ran out of pitching. We won the quarter, the semi, and then I'm like, who are we going to pitch? And Javi goes, I'll pitch. I don't care. I'll pitch.
Give me the ball.
I'll pitch. And he shut him out. We won 6-0.
And Ernie, let me tell you, a lot of great guys you had on that team, because I know a lot of those guys today, and tremendous guys.
Yeah, good guys, good people. And to
Manny
this day,
Jacomino was on that team. Hugo Bosco was on that team.
Yeah.
Arturo Ramos.
There's a bunch. Carlos and his brother, George Ruiz.
Yep.
Not many baseball players, but a lot of productive citizens to our community.
Yes, sir.
A lot of productive citizens and gone on to be teachers and doctors and lawyers. And that to me is what I'm the most proud of with coaching guys, coaching players, that they turn out to go to school and do the things that they've accomplished through that. So, yeah, that was exciting, Javi. Rich, anything else?
I wanted to ask Javi, what's the status on the golf tournament? I know it's way off. It's way off to the left, but
March, man, get ready. We're getting ready. Have a contract again. We're going back to Miccosukee, and year 5 should be better than 4. Every year it gets better, and the last 3 years we've been able to luckily sell it out. We don't have much golfers out there, but we have a lot of great people. Yeah, we have a great time.
Yeah, I don't know about golfers. I wouldn't call them golfers, but definitely
we have great people.
Javi, can you talk a little bit about it? It's if you want to,
Absolutely.
It's the Javi Strong tournament, so people can know what Rich giving you that free plug in here.
Well, basically, all of you know I had an accident. Ernie, how long? 4 years now, huh? 4 years. 4 years ago, I had an accident. Amputated both my legs. Obviously, we all know the story. Was in the hospital 5 months. But what we've done is we started an organization, the Javi Strong organization, and we put on about four events a year, and 3 of the events usually we decided, and we donate all proceeds, whether hurricane victims in the Bahamas and Puerto Rico, different things. The one event that we use for myself is our golf tournament, which, like I said, we've been able to sell it out the last 3 years. And basically, we put it together at Mikusuki, who has been a great partner with us, and we use it for my prosthetic legs. Every 5 years, I need to get a new pair of legs. Like some of us get cars, we get, suits, we get ties, bow ties. I have to get legs. So every 5 years, I have to get a new pair of legs, and the legs are about $130,000.
No.
So basically, the events that we put together are to help people around, our community. But the golf tournament we do to help myself to be able to raise the funds to be able to buy those immaculate legs, sexy legs that I wear, that allow me to do everything that I was able to do in the past, which it's incredible. The technology that they use now, it's top notch thanks to the military. And it's a waterproof leg that, could go in the ocean, could go up and down stairs, the only leg that could go up and down stairs, and basically emulates a knee, an actual knee.
What is
Yeah,
the
you told
date
me.
on that, Javi? What's the date on that, so I could put it in our comment section?
I'm looking in middle or late March. I'll send you the exact date. Ernie, you might have it.
Yeah, I might. But as we get closer, we're gonna have you on the show to talk about that a little bit more. We had Eric Rico talk about Back Club USA last show. Talked for about 15 minutes. What a great concept, like we talked about. But definitely we'll have you back on to talk about the tournament, because definitely that's something that everybody on here has participated in some capacity. So we will continue to support that without a doubt.
Thank you.
One of the things that baseball coaching has brought to me is relationships, and Javi's an example of that. And I think it's important for us, as it's been mentioned, coaches mentor, but they lead to friendships, close friendships. And there's nothing that warms my heart more than I get a text from an ex-player wishing me a happy birthday or a happy Father's Day or whatever. To me, that means that I've done my job correctly. And I know that you guys have done your job correctly, and you guys are great at what you do, and there's a reason why you guys are successful at it. So what advice would you give a young person that, whether he's an athlete or not an athlete, to get into education? What's the advice, and how would you persuade them to get into education if they just don't know what they want to do?
Maybe I'll go first, but coming up, I mean, a lot of people used to see administration as such a, the word I'm looking for is glamour, a glamorous position. But, soon you realize that the title doesn't get you anything. The relationships that you form with people, the relationships that you build with people are what stays with you. Whether it's with your teachers or your students. I mean, nothing fills me with more pride than when I'm out in the community and a student comes up and tells me, listen, you were my principal in such and such a time, and my God, thank you so much, because during that time you did this or you did that. And at every school, all of us have been, we have always done something each year, to try and help kids, to try and help the school, try to improve the school, and leave places where we've been better than we found. So I think that to me would be the advice I would give someone. Make sure that you build strong relationships with your teachers, your staff, custodians, everyone. I mean, I used to make it a point to go in and eat with my custodians because, my dad always taught me, make sure that you learn how to deal with kings, but never forget, where you came from, and make sure that, you always keep that in mind. And to me, that always worked. And it's just building strong relationships with everyone.
Absolutely.
And Ernie,
Building relationships. Go ahead, Carlos.
No, I'm sorry. I think Ernie's heard this before, and I've said it. It is the one profession that on a daily you can make an impact on someone's life. So there aren't many careers out there, many professions that daily you can make an impact in someone's life. And like Guillermo mentioned, they cherish it. They take it with them. You hear back from them years later. And to be able to make an impact on someone's life, it's quite a career to take. And one that I thank God I was born and to teach. I was born to do the job I am. I enjoy it. I love it. It's a passion. And I don't take it for granted, not 1 second of the day.
For me, if I were to give any advice, if anybody going into education, I guess if that's the question, again, we've heard nothing but relationships. I even ask or bring it up in meetings that if you ask people years down the line, do you remember your scores, your FSA score, your SAT score? They might remember it, but what they will remember are the people, and they'll remember events that took place. Athletes in particular will remember their first game, their first hit, their first pitch, something like that. It will stick with them. But it's again, it's all about the relationships that are forged along the way. Surround yourself with winners each and every day, and they know what that means, and that it will guide them, because we can't go through this alone.
Ernie, if I may add, and as a principal, whenever you have your leadership team, try to make sure that everyone there is smarter than you are.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
hire people that are smarter than you.
Well, to that point,
And coaching, just like coaching.
To that point, Carlos didn't do a good job, because he had me on his leadership team at Jackson, so I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, Ernie, remember, I graduated with a 2.0 GPA. I know yours was a little higher.
2.1.
There you go. It works.
You know, Ernie, people always ask us, and a lot of people, and I know we've all heard it before, who's the most important person in your building, this, that. A lot of those questions come up. And, to me, the most important person in my building was always the person that I needed at that time. Whether it was a teacher, a student, a counselor, a custodian, a cafeteria worker, that was the most important person in my team, because we all play a role. And without the other, we can't function.
And that's
and
key.
Like a team, that's what we do.
Those are very good advices, because, everybody in the school has a role. And if you have them do the role to their best capabilities, and you're constantly motivating, guess what? It's going to happen, and you're going to have a successful group.
Yeah, that translates to baseball too. That translates to baseball. Yeah, we have these years and we have these teams that you got a super stud and everybody looks at that guy, but you know what? In a crunch situation, that guy gets walked. So what about the other guys behind him? Absolutely. I think that's such a great point, Javi, that everyone's got to feel empowered and their importance, because they are important. And
those little things are motivating factors. And Zig Ziglar said that motivation has to be done daily, like bathing, because if you don't bathe every day, it's not going to stay. So
I'm impressed.
I threw a name out there. I'm not just a pretty face. Well, Guillermo says I'm not, but
a pretty voice.
A pretty voice. But guys,
Ernie, along the motivation part, if I may share a quick story.
Another jab at me? Are you going to make fun of me again?
No.
Okay,
no,
okay. That continue.
No, it's a serious note. My first year as a principal at Brownsville Middle School, there was a lady that was like a 30-year veteran teacher, very heavy set, could hardly walk, had a difficult time walking. But I went to her classroom, and I noticed that she was teaching from behind her desk on a walkthrough. So I said, okay, stay there for a few minutes, left. Came back to her classroom a second time, observed the same thing. I said, okay. The third time, I went ahead and said to the lady, can I speak to you outside? And she said, sure. And then I went to her and I said, look, do me a favor. Kids today learn a little differently than when you and I learned. Kids today need to have you moving around, helping out, making sure that, as they do their work, you walk around, and that you go ahead and, help them. I want to see more of that. Next time I come around, I want to see some of that. So sure enough, the next time I went around, she was walking around, in some pain, to be honest with you, because again, she was heavy set, older lady, but she was doing it. I went back to my office. I took out a little card. I said, thank you. It was great really seeing you walking around and helping the kids today. Signed it and put it in her mailbox. That lady came the next day crying to my office, saying that was the first time anybody had ever wrote a positive note in her 30-year career. Wow. So you talk about motivation. I think as supervisors, many times we try to focus on all the negatives and we get consumed by it. But I read a great book, Well Done, that talks about walking around looking for the positive things in people and commending them for those things. So that's another advice that I think I would have for a young person who wants to be an administrator. Try to not get consumed by all the negativity, but concentrate on all the positives taking place in your school and celebrating those.
Absolutely. And I can relate that to a book that I read. Yes, Javi, I read a book. It's called the
audio book.
It was an audio book. You didn't read it. You heard it.
Tit for tat right now. But listen, it's and I recommend it to you guys. It's called The Energy Bus by John Gordon. And it talks about who do we want driving our bus, you know, and it talks about teamwork, and, you know, we have to prepare those people to drive our bus, and not to have people that are going to be what's called an energy vampire and sucking out the energy, and obviously staying positive through the process. I recommend that book too, but that kind of taught me too that we got to
First
teach.
name?
It's called the Energy Bus.
What's the author's name? The first name?
John Gordon.
John Gordon. Got it.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's a man read, because it's simple. It's you know, I read it in 2 days. But believe it or not, it's not a big book. He does a lot of great stuff that's relatable to sports. Training Camp is another one that he's got. He's got another one called The Seed. Anyways, long story short, really good read, and it's definitely for leaders. It's important for us to know who's on our bus.
If you read it in 2 days, it must have had a lot of pictures. So
no pictures, no pictures. But but my 7th grade reading level came in. My wife told me that we should be, because I was reading. She's doing her master's now, and she says, you know, that when I wrote, because I finished doing my master's a year ago, and she says, when you have to write at a 7th grade level, that's what everybody says, that the message gets across, and this is that type of book. But anyways, guys, you guys were great. I appreciate your time, and I know that through this tough time, you guys are always busy, and it's a pleasure. I know I've met 3 of you guys on here. Mr. Hamilton, thank you for coming on. I saw your musical, by the way. It was great. But anyways, thank you guys. Anything else? But thank you again for your time.
Just thank you both for the opportunity and for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Ernie.
Had a great time. Thank you.
Hey, Rich, I think these gentlemen that came on here give us a lot of information and have a passion also for what they do. And definitely as school leaders, you have to have a passion and be purpose-driven. And I think those gentlemen, are personify that, you know. So it was good to have them on, and definitely how baseball impacted them and kind of led them through the career path that they've chosen, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting just to hear how much their day-to-day interactions correlate with what we do as coaches on the baseball field. It's really the same. It's really the same thing, and the best of them are able to get the best out of their team, whether it's the 18th guy on your roster or the first guy on your roster. And I thought they all shared that same sentiment. I think that's part of what makes them such great administrators. So yeah,
definitely
it was fantastic to have them on.
Definitely, man. But it was fun, man. We'll crack it up again next week, man, and definitely just keep watching us, man. We're having fun. I don't know about you, but I'm having fun.
We got to get with either Lewis or we got to get with Larry Fitz to get that intro finalized so I could play it every week.
Yeah, that's my fault. I've been slacking on that, to be honest with you. So blame me. I guess I got to call their agents. We haven't been able to sign that contract, so I think that's the issue there. But if we pay them in Mexican pesos like they're paying us, I think we'll be fine.
All right.
All right, man. Well, listen, man. Thanks again. We'll see you next week. You guys have a great night.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.